quality. How important is that for the development of English football, and how pleasing is it that the ones that are coming in are adding significantly to the group?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to say is that we're not doing it for wallpaper. They're in because they deserve to be in, and Mason's performances already this season for his club, then in training with us this week, then what he showed when he went into the game, he's a threat to the starting team. So that is hugely encouraging for us, in that you know that with a lot of these lads, their best years are probably 3, 4, 5 away. I mean, he's still filling out physically as well. So that's great. Of course, what we've got to do is get the balance right of keeping on winning matches and blood those players at the right times. But it's, English fans should be hugely excited when you see the likes of him and Sancho coming on, and the impact that they can have already. We love working with them because also the mentality is good. It's not just that they've got talent. They want to get better, and it's up to them how far they go.
Rob?
Gareth, can I just ask you about Raheem? Because obviously Harry was man of the match, but I know you said in TV interviews maybe he should have had one or two more, but equally his performance was probably the equal of Harry's, and he got a huge ovation when he came off, which obviously hasn't always been the case with England. It's been difficult for him. So how pleased do you see him getting now, I think, 7 in 7?
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding. In the first half in particular, where it was difficult to find space, we were a little slow moving the ball. I didn't think we had enough runners in behind, but he was a constant threat throughout that period, and his willingness to work without the ball to go and press and win the ball back for the first goal set absolutely the right tone for the team. So he'll probably have the ump that he's only got one today, because his mindset has shifted so much towards that desire to score goals, whereas 2 years ago when we were working with him, he was still a dangerous player, but he just didn't have that same desire to get into those areas and that ruthlessness in front of goal, or I guess the mindset of the disappointment when he doesn't score. And I'm delighted for him, because has for a long time been such an important part of our team and what we do. Now he's reaping the personal gain of the goals and also the acknowledgement publicly that he should get.
Max?
I know you're probably running out of superlatives for Harry, Gareth, but can you try and find some new ones for us, please?
Well, in terms of the goals he scored, we stood and watched him take penalties for about 20 minutes yesterday. And when you watch the process that he goes through, he just gives himself every chance of succeeding by that deliberate practice. So for a youngster, to be able to watch what he does, and obviously we've got young players that we've spoken about, being able to study him and see his professionalism and the way he works at his game, it's an incredible example. So if you can be confident on the bench when a penalty is given, we're as confident as we possibly could be. You know that always there's a chance that, you know, even the most outstanding can be saved or something happen, but he really, in those moments, has supreme temperament and technique.
Sam, you got a question?
Yeah. Hi, Gareth. How close do you think you are to, I know you get asked this a lot, but to the team for next summer? Because with the best will in the world, it's 14 goals in 3 games in qualifying, so they're not huge. They don't feel like huge tests at the moment.
No, I mean, I think today's game was challenging at times, and we played against a system that I don't think we dealt with brilliantly without the ball. So that's something we've got to look back on as a coaching team. Every team plays differently when they come to play us. They are worried about the threat that we have, and they seem to adapt. I always felt we could cause problems on the day with the ball, but without the ball we were a bit loose, and so that wasn't what we would have hoped. In terms of the team for the summer, very difficult to say, because I I think so many of our players are still a handful of caps. So many of them are improving rapidly. The great thing is we've got genuine competition for places. We've got clearly probably 4 or 5 guys who you would expect to see on the team sheet, but outside of that, very difficult to call in a lot of positions. And the way that people progress over this season and the way that the new ones adapt to international football, it will determine so much. So ahead of the World Cup this time, this sort of September-October period, I think Trippier only had 1 cap. I think Pickford had 1 perhaps. Maguire, we hadn't played. So that was 3 that got to the World Cup semi-final who hadn't played by this point ahead of the tournament, and they all had outstanding tournaments for us. So I think we've always got to have that open mind.
Simon Peach. Sammy, don't worry.
Gareth, what can you say about Harry Kane's drive to keep scoring goals every time? We've seen throughout his career, he just keeps going and going and going, but he's overtaken Sir Geoff Hurst today and Stan Mortensen. It just doesn't seem to stop.
No, I can only talk glowingly about that mentality to want to be a top player. You have to have a slightly... selfish isn't the right word, because he's actually a very unselfish player. He works so hard for the team and is more than happy to drop into areas to leave space for others and play passes in to others. But when he gets his moment, then he just has an outstanding mindset and technically a top finisher. But I go back to that's hours and hours of practice, and I think if you talk to some of the other forwards in the squad, they would talk to you about how a big an impression that's had on them and the way that they practice when they go back to their clubs. Because sometimes you can take part in finishing practices that can be a little bit half-hearted or not as focused as they might be. He's on it every single time, and that's why you get the transfer into the game.
Final question from Ollie at the back.
Hi, Gareth. I just asked Harry something similar, but if you look at the progress made since the World Cup, I mean, it seemed at times to be a step back, a step forward, a step forward, a step back, in that the Nations League was a disappointment. But do you feel that generally the trend is upwards, and do you feel that you are really in a position to challenge next summer and relative to other countries as well?
Yeah, I think that the comparison would be this time ahead of the World Cup, and we were having to rebuild confidence in the team, and we were having to find players who we felt could play the way we wanted to play, and trial players. We're not having to trial players now. We're able to select players that really fit into what we do and we think can take us onto another level. And we're not rebuilding confidence. We've got a platform, and now we've got to improve and sharpen our game in all aspects. So it's a different type of challenge, and it's not easy with... I think Tuesday's game will be completely different, by the way. I think they're a really good side. So, but we've not had the tight, tense matches that the Nations League provided as yet, that really we learn so much more from. But so therefore we've got to do that in training, and the challenge of training has got to be so high that that we learn from those moments and we can see what the players are capable of. So have we progressed? Well, I think we have. We didn't sit back after the World Cup. I know you said the Nations League was a disappointment. It was, in that once you're in the semi-final, you want to go on and win the thing, but also was unique circumstance in 7 players arriving 48 hours before the game. So I've got to temper my expectations of what we were able to produce there, but we learned more valuable lessons from that, which I think will stand us in good stead. I think we're competitive with probably 8 teams. Portugal are European champions, Nations League champions, France are world champions. Would be ridiculous if we thought Spain, Italy, who are unbeaten in their competitions, in their groups, Germany are always going to be a threat, and Belgium have already got to a World Cup semi-final. So I think we can, on our day, beat those teams, but equally the Dutch showed that they're capable of beating us on their day, and I think it is a really tight grouping of probably 8 teams.
Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much.
Okay.